But we need to talk about the product owner, right? That's a big part of Scrum.
Big part, yeah. And Sutherland had some really interesting thoughts on how to make that role even more effective.
Okay, well, let's dig into that.
Let's do it. Okay, so we were talking about the product owner role. And, Sutherland mentioned how they can sometimes have really high expectations, which can create tension.
Right, especially if they're overloaded themselves and can't give the team the support they need. It's like you need to be able to guide them, but also clear the way for them.
Exactly. And you know what Sutherland actually suggested? Product owner teams.
Instead of one person trying to do everything, a small team could focus on that product vision, prioritizing features, getting feedback from everyone involved.
It's like having a dedicated support crew, making sure the team has what they need to actually succeed.
That's a perfect analogy. It distributes the workload, too, so no one person gets burned out.
Exactly. Speaking of support, Sutherland shared a story about Scrum being used in education, which I thought was super inspiring.
Oh, yeah. He visited a school in the Netherlands where students use it to learn all kinds of things. Chemistry, history, you name it.
It's called Scrum, and it's really catching on. The cool thing is it flips the traditional classroom on its head.
Yeah, he was describing how students were, like, excitedly running to update their Scrum boards. And the teachers were acting as product owners, guiding them, not just lecturing at them.
So instead of passively absorbing info, they're actively learning, taking ownership.
Exactly. And the results are amazing. They're performing better, getting higher grades, some even finishing semesters early. They're even starting their own special projects.
It's powerful, right? It shows that this stuff isn't just for businesses. It can empower people in all sorts of contexts.
Totally inspiring. But, while Scrum can be super effective, Sutherland also had this warning about bad agile.
Right, right.
What exactly did he mean by that?
Basically, a lot of teams are going through the motions of Scrum, but not really getting it. They might use the words and have the meetings, but they're missing the point.
So what does that look like? How do you know if you're falling into that bad agile trap?
One big sign, according to Sutherland, is not having working software at the end of a sprint.
So you mean you go through a whole 2-week sprint and don't have anything tangible to show for it?
Exactly. You're not getting that fast feedback, that chance to adapt quickly.
Defeats the whole purpose.
Totally. And he was saying that this bad agile can actually make work slower and harder and less fun, which is crazy because it's supposed to be the opposite.
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah.
He even told this funny story about a teenage girl who had to, coach her dad's IT team on how to do Scrum properly
No way.
because they were messing it up so bad.
That was hilarious. It really shows how easy it is to lose sight of the core principles, get bogged down in the process.
Totally. It's supposed to empower you, not weigh you down with a bunch of bureaucracy.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between structure and flexibility. And, that's where a good Scrum Master can be so valuable.
Yeah, they're like a guide, right?
Yeah.
Helping the team navigate the framework, avoiding those common pitfalls.
Exactly. Like a coach, making sure they stay focused on the big picture and don't get lost in the weeds.
And it's not just having a Scrum Master. Sutherland really emphasized transparency. Everyone knowing what's going on, what the priorities are, what roadblocks might pop up.
That open communication is what builds trust. It makes everyone feel like they own the project. And it helps you adapt faster when challenges come up, which they always do.
Right, so it's not about hiding problems or pretending everything's perfect. It's about being honest, being real, so you can solve problems together.
Yeah.
That reminds me of this digital task management tool I use sometimes, Kanbanchi. It has this great feature where you can actually visualize your workflow, see potential bottlenecks right away.
So even if you're not specifically using Scrum, that kind of technology can help with transparency and communication.
It really can. But
Yeah.
going back to the interview, Sutherland also talked about that relationship between the team and the product owner, how it's not a hierarchy, it's a partnership.
Exactly. Both sides have to be willing to listen, to respect each other's expertise, and to work together. The product owner isn't a dictator, and the team isn't just blindly following orders.
Right, right.
It's got to be a two-way street.
So we've covered a lot here, from where Scrum came from to the dangers of bad agile. But what does all this mean for our listeners? How can they actually use this stuff in their own work?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
Well, I think the first thing is to understand that Scrum, it's more than just a set of rules. It's a mindset, a way of working that emphasizes collaboration, always improving and delivering real value.
And those principles, they can apply to anything, whether you're building software or planning a marketing campaign or even organizing a family vacation.
It's about thinking differently about work, about how to get things done better and faster, and hopefully have a little more fun along the way.
I like that. So I guess the challenge for our listeners is to think about their own work. What are their challenges? And how can they use these principles to improve things?
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you, what helps you do your best work. And don't be afraid to experiment. That's what Scrum is all about.
So we've been talking about this amazing world of Scrum and how it can really apply to anything, from software to planning a family vacation. It's pretty incredible.
It is, and it's about so much more than just the steps. It's about really understanding why Scrum works.
And we talked about bad agile, right? Where you're doing the motions, but you're not really getting the benefits.
Exactly. And Sutherland, he had some really great advice on how to avoid that trap. One thing he stressed, having a crystal clear definition of done, which I know sounds kind of jargony.
It does, yeah. For anyone new to this, it can be a bit overwhelming. What does that even mean?
Basically, it means everyone on the team agrees on what finished actually means. Not just checking a box, but knowing the work is truly done. Tested, ready to go.
So you avoid those situations where something seems done, but then later, oh, there's a bunch more to do.
Exactly. It eliminates all that confusion. And to do it right, everyone needs to be talking. The team, the product owner, everyone involved.
Open communication, that's key. And Sutherland also talked about continuous improvement, always looking for ways to do things better, which is core to Scrum.
Absolutely. It's not about being perfect. It's about constantly learning, growing, evolving, and making work more enjoyable in the process, which brings us back to that happiness metric, right?
Right. Focusing on what brings the team joy, addressing those pain points, it all ties together.
It does. And it's important to remember, Scrum is a framework. It's not a set of rules you have to follow blindly. Teams need to adapt it to what works for them. That's where a good Scrum Master comes in.
Right. They're like a coach, helping the team find their own way, unlocking that potential.
Exactly. And protecting them from distractions, too. Making sure they have what they need to succeed.
And that transparency we talked about. The Scrum Master plays a big role in that, right? Making sure everyone's in the loop, identifying those potential roadblocks early on.
Huge role. Transparency is crucial for trust. It helps everyone feel ownership over the project.
It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about being honest so you can tackle challenges together.
And that honesty, that openness, it has to extend to the relationship between the team and the product owner. It can't be one-sided.
It's a partnership, not a dictatorship.
Exactly. Both sides have to be willing to listen, to respect each other, to work together.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Scrum, what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
Yeah.
How can they apply this to their own work?
I think the most important thing is to remember that Scrum is more than just a set of steps. It's a way of thinking, a way of approaching work.
It's about collaboration, continuous improvement, and delivering real value, no matter what kind of work you do.
So think about your own work. What are your challenges? How could you use these principles to improve things, maybe even make work a little more enjoyable?
That's our deep dive into Scrum, everyone. We hope you found it insightful, maybe even inspiring. Remember, Scrum is a powerful tool, but it's up to you to make it work for you.